Great, fantastic morning. Marvelous, amazing morning. To God be all the glory for waking you and me up this morning. For him we give him acknowledgement, right? Praise, glory, the hallelujah. Yes, we were chosen for this day. Welcome to January the 8th, 2023. Perspectives with Edwina B. That's me, y'all. Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops lady. On the Alcoholics Anonymous Daily Reflection reading. No, I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've been a proud and grateful member for close to 33 years. If God wakes me up on February the 23rd of 2023, we will be celebrating 33 years from addiction, alcoholism, and the entire lifestyle. Guess what? But one day at a time. Why? Because of the AA daily reflection readings that says we only have a daily reprieve just for today. I also will be incorporating the 5 agreements. Ooh, y'all got to get this book. Y'all got to get this book. The 5 agreements by the Ruiz family. When I say my spiritual wisdom has been elevated to a high level, and I'm looking to go higher because I'm on fire as a result of working, practicing, and now incorporating the 5 agreements of the Ruiz family, along with the spiritual principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. Watch out, world, because God is continuously preparing me to do just what I'm doing now. Just to touch one more life, just to touch one more. Okay, so welcome, right? So, I'm only on for a half hour, so I need to kind of cut through the chase and let you know that today, Daily Reflections reading is Do I Have a Choice? Okay. And I'm going to be incorporating the 5 agreements. Okay. And so, one of the things that I always want to share with you is that the God of my understanding, who I did not know before I got into Alcoholics Anonymous, right? The God of my understanding met me underneath a parked car almost 33 years ago in the streets of Philadelphia, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's right, underneath a parked car. Yes, I was at my end. I was literally under the parked car. That was my literal bottom after getting high and doing all kinds of sexual favors with my only stepson, who was the same age I was at the time, 34 years old. How did I get underneath that parked car? Well, I put myself underneath that parked car to save my life. Why? Because I got a flashback from my past. If I go underneath the bed, I can't be harmed. They can't find me. I can play hide and seek. So when I saw the slew of cars as I was running, if I just get underneath that car, my stepson can't do any harm to me. But underneath that parked car, I'm telling you, as humiliating, as degrading as it may sound, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because that was my knee bowing experience where I called out to this God I did not know. Whoever they say you are, whoever they say you are, take me out this life now or show me a better way. He met me underneath that parked car and accepted me just the way I was. So don't listen. I'm going to explain all this, but at that time I only weighed 90 pounds, jaw sinking in, skin totally dark, and I was a total disgrace to myself and to human mankind, but not to God, not to God. He accepted me just the way I am. So with that, before we get started, let's do a minute of meditation on the song Amazing Grace and close out everything from your mind. Turn the phone off, turn the TV off, turn the radio off. Just concentrate on the music. concentrate on the melody, and more importantly, close your eyes and just sink in the moment, the present. Let it sink in, okay? And then we'll come back, all right? Join me. And this is Amazing Grace by Scotland, by the Glens Boys. I like to play different versions, right? Because all human beings have a story. Listen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that moment of meditation before the Holy Spirit continues to use me. I thank God that being in the 12-step recovery program of Alcoholics Anonymous for nearly 33 years, and now having the awesome, awesome opportunity to learn, dissect, evaluate, practice the 5 agreements along with my 12 spiritual principles. I relish every second that I'm able to breathe and practice staying in the present. Okay. So when before I went to the meditative song, I said, you know, don't you look at this, okay? But underneath that parked car, I didn't have a mask. For many years, I, along with many others, and even today, wear masks. And so, underneath that parked car almost 33 years ago, God accepted me just the way I was. And so I always remember that time, that day, right? That moment when I didn't know this God, but when I asked him to take me out this life or show me a better way, he did. And so, as a reminder to you and a reminder to me, the mask must go. I love this part. Woo! There go the mask, right? I don't wear wigs. I love my natural hair, right? I take off these glasses, right? And I see the makeup, which is okay for you and whoever, and at one time for me. But now I realize underneath that car, I did not have any of this makeup on, so the mask must go. The mask must go. And guess what? I barely had any teeth. You believe it or not, but guess what? This is who I am in my physical condition. but way, 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 way a far cry from my spiritual condition. So don't let the physical appearance fool you, okay? But I just believe in being transparent. I believe in being my authentic self. This is the way I wake up. This is the way I go to bed. So why not accept who I am? Because God does, and He loves me, and I've learned to love myself just the way I am. Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. All right. So let me put these back in for articulation and pronunciation. But it's something about being transparent. And I need to be transparent with myself first, and therefore I can be transparent with you. All right. So we have a lot to cover. All right. All right. So the AA Daily Reflection reading, right, for today. As usual, I'm going to read it and I want you to hear, but I want you to practice listening with your spiritual ear, right? And we're going to come back and dissect it, evaluate it, conduct surgery on it word by word, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, because I know now that the first agreement says, be impeccable with your word. That means do not sin against yourself and do not sin against others. And so we're going to dissect each word in the reflection reading for today and incorporate the five agreements. Okay. So I only have 16 minutes left. So let's get busy. I used to hate that word in my addiction. Now I don't. Why? Because I changed the meaning of it. I changed the narrative. It's time for me to get busy living and enjoying the rest of my life here on earth. Donald Lawrence says we are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. No, we are spiritual beings living and walking in this natural experience on earth. All right. So let's get to the reading for today. Let me add that to the screen. Let me get rid of the blockage here. All right. So let's hide that. So listen, okay? Take a deep breath. January the 8th, AA Daily Reflections. Do I have a choice? Do I have a choice? I want to ask you, do you have a choice? I want you to go to aa.org after this viewing to do your own research, get your own interpretation, your own perspectives. I'm leading you like my pastor, Christopher Allen Bullock, led me to the source. I'm leading you to the source, and it's aa.org for any and everything you want to know about the AA program that provides 12 spiritual principles. Do I have a choice? I will be including the five agreements. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. Be skeptical, but learn to listen. And the quote from our co-founder comes from page 24 of the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. And it states, the fact is that most alcoholics, for reason yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. Again, AA page 24. And the alcoholic in recovery shares his perspective by stating, my powerlessness over alcohol does not cease when I quit drinking. In sobriety, I still have no choice. I can't drink. The choice I do have is to pick up and use the kit of spiritual tools. Comes from page 25 of Alcoholics Anonymous. When I do that, my higher power relieves me of my lack of choice and keeps me sober one more day. If I could choose not to pick up a drink today, where then would be my need for AA or a higher power? Huh? All right, so let's get right into it, okay? So the first thing it says, do I have a choice? All day long, we as human beings make decisions all day long. And in fact, most of the decisions um, are choices. Am I going to do that? Am I going to do this? Am I going here? Am I going there? They are decisions, right? Do I have a choice? Now, we are talking about people who are in recovery from alcoholism, drug addiction, and guess what? Whatever addiction you have that you have become aware of, that you are powerless over, and that addiction has made your life unmanageable. And as a result, like me, underneath that parked car, I did not have a choice. By the time I was underneath that parked car, I had to drink, I had to use. But when I asked that God to take me out this life or show me a better way, I no longer have a choice. I can't drink. So, do I have a choice? Okay. And so, our co founder, Bill W., says the fact is that most alcoholics, for reason yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so called willpower becomes practically non existent. Okay. So it says the fact is that most alcoholics, didn't say all, most alcoholics, for reasons yet don't understand, have lost the power of choice in drink. But guess what? We do, because we recognize that we have a disease that is incurable. If I continue to drink, I will die. If I don't drink, right? I if I don't drink, I will kill myself, right? No, I think it's the other way. If I continue to drink, I'm going to die, right? And if I don't drink, I feel like as though I'm killing myself, okay? And so, in our 12-step program, we recognize that we have lost the power of choice in drink. Lost the power, right? And so the next sentence says our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. Let me put a nail there, as my pastor Christopher Allen Bullock would say. Okay. In Alcoholics Anonymous, through the readings, through hearing other members in the fellowship, by learning, embracing, and turning on the 12 spiritual principles, in that first step, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. That means that we had acknowledged, had awareness that this drinking ain't getting it. This drinking is killing me and killing others and has made my life totally unmanageable. No matter how much willpower I exerted during my drinking days, I thought I had control, and I even tried to control it. They say the moment you think you can control something, you're already out of control, right? All right. And so our willpower, people say, just put the drink down. No, when you learn that you have this disease of alcoholism that has been scientifically proven and has been supported, that we need a spiritual and a divine intervention, right, to help us with this drinking problem. No human willpower can help us, not even our own. Right? So we learn that, and we recognize our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. And so it's amazing how when this gentleman, he says, my powerlessness over alcohol does not cease when I quit drinking. In sobriety, I still have no choice. I can't drink. Wow, you know what, y'all? We have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Because this is a spiritual program, I make my meetings every day in one way, shape, form, or fashion. And I've accepted my powerlessness. I've accepted the fact that I can't drink ever again, one day at a time, right? And why? Because I have an incurable disease called alcoholism. Yes, a disease that is incurable. So if I put down that drink on February the 22nd of 1990, and today is January the 8th of 2023, I still can't pick up that drink. Why? Because I still have the disease of alcoholism. It's just dormant, it's being arrested, right? I have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. You hear me? All right, so let's go back, right? So now when we see that I can't drink one day at a time, what we have to learn in recovery is that all the things that we allowed or that we uh, 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 blame people for, that we said was the cause of our drinking, all that becomes irrelevant in recovery because we learn not to give anything or anybody that much power over us ever again, right? To make us go back to drinking. Be impeccable with your word, right? Be impeccable with your word. And then when we talk about the second agreement, don't take anything personally. And so when we come into recovery and we come into our AA, a fellowship, and we are among people who understand us, right? We still have to live on this earth and in this society. And so with the 5 agreements by the Ruiz family, it says practice being impeccable with your word. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to sin against me. I'm not going to hurt me. Don't take anything personally. I don't care what anybody say or do. That has nothing to do with me. Practice doing that, right? And so when we do that, we recognize that I can't drink. And so the choice I do have is to pick up and use the kit of spiritual tools, right? The choice I do have in recovery, the choice that people in recovery have, we have spiritual tools at our beck and call. And we learn that if we just pick it up, we can pick it up all day long. But if we don't utilize it, if we don't be impeccable with our word, if we don't practice, don't taking anything personally, right? We don't make assumptions, right? I have a choice to pick up these spiritual tools to help me, to aid me, so that I won't pick up another drink. And more importantly, I practice not giving anything or anybody the ability to take my joy, my peace, my tranquility, and my usefulness to my God, right? And so he goes on to say, when I do that, my higher power relieves me of my lack of choice and keeps me sober one more day. Do you realize that you only have this minute, this second? Do you realize that? My sister niece in Augusta, Georgia, found out that her ex-boyfriend died of a heart attack. Bam, just like that. You heard many people just dying, dropping off for one reason or another. And so valuing every second, every moment, being present. That's why the 5 agreements say no, along with the 12 spiritual principles. This is what I have right now. Let me do my best. Let me not take anything personally. Don't allow myself to make assumptions, right? Because I have spiritual tools at my feet that I can alter the negative and replace it with some positivity, all right? And so let's go here again. He says, so when I do that, my higher power relieves me of my lack of choice and keeps me sober one more day. One day at a time, 1 hour, 1 minute at a time. I won't pick up the drink. I will practice using these spiritual principles. I will recognize that I'm a spiritual being encased in this body, and that I, if utilizing those tools, can get through any and all things on this earthly journey and through my humanness. Yes, my higher power, who I choose to call God, gives me the choice to say, here I am. You going to use me? As Bill Withers says, use me. Woo, use me up, and I'm going to use my God up because that's all He wants us to do, to use Him. And He know He needs us. He know we need Him, but He wants us to want Him. And I want God like I want nothing else, right? All right, so I got a few more minutes, right? So the last sentence says, if I could choose not to pick up a drink today, if I could choose not to pick up a drink today, where then would be my need for AA or a higher power? All right. And so let's think about that. We have a 4-step inventory where we go back as far as we can to find out not what's wrong with us, but what happened to us, and where those ideas, attitudes, behaviors were first formulated, by whom, in what condition, what environment. And we begin to dissect all of that to bring about a new perspective now that we are grown, if you want to say, no longer a child where we didn't have a choice and didn't understand because we were still in our developmental stages. But now that we have arrived in our age, whatever it is now, we done gained some knowledge. What kind of knowledge though, right? And so going back in our history will help us to evaluate what happened to us to bring about that attitude of anger and that attitude of jealousy and all those quote unquote defects of character. And all defects of characters are our God-given natural instincts have far exceeded their intended purpose. Okay. And so when we do that 4th step, we come to the 5th step where we admit it to God and to another human being, like I'm admitting to you, so that we can get to the exact nature of where those things brought about a defect in our character, right? And I always say the 5th step is like having diarrhea, honey. You trying to hold it right. What willpower do you have with diarrhea? When that thing comes, but that's how the 5th step is. We begin to reveal all those things that we've been concealing all of our lives, things that happened to us. It's nothing wrong with us. Something happened to us. So we need to no longer sin against ourselves, and we need to be impeccable with our word. I want to find out what happened. When I find out what happened, then I can apply these spiritual tools and this additional spiritual wisdom to alter and change my perspective. I can get to change the channel. Yes. Okay. And so after doing that 5th step with someone, right, and getting to the exact nature that the 5 agreements basically agree and on the same lines with the 12 spiritual principles. A lot of our character defects are based in fear, false evidence appearing real. Huh? And so when we have chose to escape our feelings, our emotions, our this, our that by drinking, guess what? We had no alternative but to become an alcoholic or drug addict, right? Because we are using outside substances to deal with inner issues, and it never works. All right. And so be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Just because God chose me, right, from underneath that parked car to be set on a pathway to recovery, I could not make assumptions of what that pathway would be like. But guess what? I knew what I left. I don't have to make assumptions where I left from underneath that parked car, right? And so when I don't practice not making assumptions, I am becoming honest, open-minded, and willing to move forward, right? I may fall, I may stumble, but I'm doing it in a forward position, using the kit of these spiritual tools. All right. So I ain't got but a couple more minutes. And so one of the things I love about the 5 agreements, and that coincides with the 12 spiritual principles, it talks about practicing these principles in all our affairs, practicing these spiritual principles in all our affairs, practicing the 5 agreements in all our affairs, and they are interrelated. They are and not entangled, but they overlap. They complement one another. And the truth of the matter, they're saying the same thing in a different way, right? Because listen, I've learned when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and that teacher may come in different forms depending upon where that person is on his spiritual journey, even if he don't think he's on one. All right, and so I want to close with the last 2 agreements where it talks about, here it is. Let's go. So we talked about, right, the be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions. And number 4 says, when we incorporate those first 3, we will do our best. We will do our best because we're being impeccable with our word. We're not sinning against us. We're not sinning against you, but only by practicing, right? We're practicing not taking anything personally, right? We are not making assumptions, but practicing that too. So therefore, that leaves no alternative but for us to do our best. And that means we can do our best when we're sick, and we can do our best when we're healthy. It's just do your best, right? And so the 5th agreement, it says, don't take anything personal. No, it says, be skeptical, but listen to learn. I'm glad that you are taking the time just to listen to what I'm saying, right? And I want you to not just listen, I want you to do your own research. So go to aa.org for Alcoholics Anonymous information, and go to www.miguel, right, .com for the agreements by the Ruiz family. So you have a choice today. You didn't have to choose to watch me today, but you did. And if you missed it, you can watch me later on or pass it on to someone. Okay. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, and now I see. Through the 12 spiritual principles and the 5 agreements, led by my higher power, who I choose to call God, I will stay sober and help one more achieve sobriety.